I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
Great, another broken white boy for us to fix.
That's my secret, Cat.
I'm always angry.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are. With great power comes great responsibility. I can do this all day.
Wakanda forever!
And welcome, Internet, to another episode of Views from the 616, the blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is one of your legendary hosts, Tatiana King, a.k.a. The Life and the Times of Sharon Carter, a.k.a. T'Challa Bread, a.k.a. the Wicked Witch of the West View, the coldest winter soldier ever, Tesseract Thompson, and Schrodinger's Cap. And I am joined, as usual, by my bespectacled and fashionable co-host.
It's your boy, DJ Benhameen, a.k.a. the Off-White Panther, the Power Toker, John. Oh, walk it out, walk it out, walk it out. Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon, a pimp named Sam Wilson, the sad titan, Hank Grimm, here in the spaceship tonight.
I love the combination of two different characters there. That's just so perfect.
Yes, the sad titan, Hank Grimm. I need a zombie one to finish off a trilogy because it's been all dark for a few episodes right now. All dark.
And Ben, I mean, you said it because we are here to talk episode 5 of What If, titled What If Zombies.
Yes. Shout out to Marvel Zombies, the long-running mini-series and series. They did several versions of it. I want to say mid-2000s. It was a big hit. It was after Walking Dead, the comic took off. And, zombies started getting back in popular culture. Marvel brought along Marvel Zombies. So this wasn't even like a what-if-inspired thing. This was its own thing that I guess happened in a what-if universe, though, because it was like an alternate universe of Marvel where basically what we saw in this episode, zombies took over. It was hilarious. It was like the zombies were always talking. They weren't the zombies, they were more the talking.
Okay. Well, we got to talk more about that then. Because in this episode, the basic plot is the rescue of Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm unleashes a world-ending virus that turns everyone, including the Avengers, into zombies. Now, this is the reason, that's how it happened here, but how did it happen in the comics?
No, I can't remember.
Was it just like they turned around and said, hey, everybody's a zombie today?
It's like one of them same things. Doesn't matter in the end, like how it happened. That's what Robert Kirkman always said. He was like, I never wanted to say how the zombie apocalypse happened in Walking Dead because it's not about that.
I want to fucking know how. I'm the type where I want to know how.
Yeah, but in the end, it doesn't matter. It's just like, as we see with the coronavirus, how doesn't really matter, I
mean, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because like water under the bridge, but it matters to me like, yo, who fucked up? Like that. And maybe it's just me trying to assign blame, right?
Yeah.
I just like, where did they go wrong?
Hate?
And what umbrella corporation building did they knock over a jar and then chaos? Like, I'm just curious of how the shit happened, but I hear you.
In both cases, that zombies and corona, that probably happened, so.
True.
And in this case, it seems to be his Hope. But I'm not putting no blame on poor Hope. She was just trying to do her thing. True. Things happen.
Before we get into things, I did want to give a special shout out to Patrick Jordans, who is the character artist for this episode. Because the character, the way the characters are drawn in this are just particularly beautiful. Like, I felt that there was a slight difference in the way that the characters were drawn, at least like the facial expressions here than in other, and it could just even be a slight variation, but I felt it was different and again in a very beautiful kind of Bishonen, if you read manga kind of way, especially Bucky, and we'll get into that later.
I just think that your love for Bucky is the only reason you're saying this, and I fully understand it. My man was shining.
Yes and no, but man's was shining. Baby.
Shining in this episode.
Oh, man. Okay. So we're going to get right into the themes
of the episode.
And again, we say the themes of the episode, but there's so many pieces and moving parts. We're going to try to just condense them into overall topics. In this episode 5 of What If, the single event here that's different from what we know is when Hank Pym goes into the quantum realm and rescues his wife. After 30 years of sorrow, Janet Van Dyne, she ends up having some sort of quantum virus that corrupts her brain. So she ends up infecting Hank. They come back to the main world and just infect everybody else.
Facts.
And once again, how? Like, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
But see, right there, it's like people are like, you want to place blame, and Hope places the blame for it on herself in this episode.
Yes,
but,
which is why I was like, holy shit, you really taking that?
Yeah, I mean, but like we were talking about in our Shang-Chi review, you know, she was trying to save her mom. You would do anything, and she knows her mom is down there, so she goes for it. And unfortunately, in this universe, her mom's been infected with a quantum virus. It could have been like that in, you know, our so-called sacred timeline, but it wasn't. In this one, it was. So L's for everybody. But I don't blame Hope. You know, just L's. This is just a bad luck.
You're sounding a lot like your boy, the Watcher. Because once again, with his snarkiness and his matter-of-factly conversations that he has, he says, like too many great catastrophes, this one sprang from a place of hope and love.
There it is. When my man said, oof, that happened.
Oof, right. And then the oof. Like, that's what I'm saying. This man's out of control. And that's why I'm like, yo, the Watcher, clearly, the double entendre of his name, he literally is just a Watcher just like us. And he's sitting there watching the episode 10 of the 10th season of Earth. And he's like, oh, that character got fucked up. Goddamn. Like, oh, man, I should have said that. Oh, you know, like you know how, especially what they say about black people in horror movies, we're yelling at the screen, telling them, don't go that way. That's what the Watcher is doing. He was like, oh, y'all shouldn't have did that, fam. Like, oh, like, he's not helpful. He's just there to give his color commentary.
Real quick, because this week I was reading some old comics, and there's an old comic where the Watcher, at a Watchers, because it's a whole race of these people, get convinced that even by watching things, by observing an event, they are changing an event, which is
my God,
it's a law in physics, right? So they get convinced of this, and the conundrum F's them up where they start dying off as they're thinking of this, because they realize that through dying, that's the only way they won't affect anything.
That's the edibles too strong, sir. Like it should not have had that thought. What does it say? If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Yes, nigga, it's there. It's matter. It's gonna fall and make a sound. But the idea of sound is someone has to be there to hear it, right? Mm-hmm. But it's still happening.
Does it? But I was thinking about it for last week's episode, right? Because he and that one really interferes. Like he is there. So by being there and talking to Dr. Strange, he's changing what's happening right there.
Well, that's different, having the conversation, but that's after the fact. After Dr. Strange already fucked shit up and shit was already going down the toilet, then he want to have a conversation with homie like, hey, yo, you want to give me a hand? Like, nah, bro, it's already done.
But even that conversation changes that reality. You get what I'm saying? Because
does it matter when the reality already collapsed on itself?
I think that's what the Watcher was saying in that moment. Like, well, fuck it.
Like, reality's already collapsed on itself, bro. There's nothing I can do. Who cares if you want to have a conversation with me?
He's like, this show is being canceled, so let me insert myself into the final episode. Like, fuck it. Ain't gonna be no more seasons anyway. So let me just show up real quick.
Season 12 of season 346, episode 2 of Earth.
Yeah.
This is what this is, because this shit is wild. In this, we also have the themes of all the MCU film parallels, because this episode actually loops in at least 3 different film stories. It loops in, and I'm sure there's more pieces, but it loops in stories within the Ant-Man and the Wasp, which serves as the main catalyst, the prime story, which I mentioned, the rescue of Janet Van Dyne. As you say, Hope basically takes it upon herself and says, yo, this is my fault. I wanted to see my mom's that bad. I pushed my dad to do it, and here we are. You also see elements from Spider-Man Homecoming in here. You see elements from Avengers Infinity War, when Bruce falls to Earth to warn Tony, Strange, and Wong. That actually happened the same way. The only difference was they were not zombies.
Wong should have bounced.
Wong should have bounced.
Shout out to our new design on tpublic.com/store/for-all-nerds, where you can get such beautiful designs as this.
Would you like to F around and find out?
And our newest design, Wong Was Right, designed by Latina Geek. Thank you for that. Wong was right. Proving once again that Wong was right in bouncing. because every time he bounced, things went right. The one time Juan doesn't bounce, zombies.
Zombies, right? Facts. It also loops in elements of Captain America: Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And with, like, again, when I say we'll talk through each element, but the fact that I've noticed, like, at least particularly with this one, this has been the one episode that has looped in the most and technically concurring stories, right? Because a lot of these stories, even though they are years apart in the real world, a lot of these stories happen within the same week, like we saw in, like, how we were reminded in the one with Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those 3 events happen all within the same week. You know, the events of, like, Thor showing up and all this other shit, Iron Man, all that stuff. Same situation here. Like, these things are happening one after the other, but they all condense into one story.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, it had the Ant-Man and the Wasp, because Ant-Man and the Wasp, its end scene actually takes place at the end of Infinity War, when Thanos snaps.
Dusted.
So most of Ant-Man and the Wasp was probably happening like a week, because Infinity War takes place over like a day. You know, the whole movie, all that stuff is like a day at most. It's so quick. And then, you know, Ant-Man, most of those events probably happened like a week before that. That's why he's still in San Fran. And then everybody gets snapped out. So yeah, all these things are going on pretty close. The home video style intro with Peter Parker is also a shout to Zombieland and the rules of survival that were in Zombieland. I thought that, I don't know, maybe I missed them, but I felt like there could have been more shout outs to zombie movies. And I'm a big zombie movie head. Like, you know, George Romero starting it all off with The Night of the Living Dead is one of my favorites. And
I
all
feel
the
like
joints after that.
All of those were implied. They weren't like out, like obvious necessarily, like maybe the Zombieland reference. Like, I think all of them were in. I think we're just at the point where we've had generations of zombie films, and you know, there's like the overall rules of it and approaches, and also obviously different types of zombies. So I think they're all implied throughout this episode. But
what I did love was the one, I mean, this ain't a direct shot, but like you said, it's implied, is there's a night, I want to say it's the Night of the Living Dead. It's from the 80s. And it was like one of the first zombie movies I ever saw. And it scared the living shit out of me at the time. But it was also so funny because the zombies were like hilarious in this one. Like when they finally got a hold of some paramedics and they eat the paramedics. And they're like, you know, through the whole movie, they're like, brains. And then they get the paramedics. And they're like, oh, paramedics are smart. More paramedics, you know.
Okay.
So when, you know, looking back, I was crying, laughing as a kid. I was shook.
That makes sense. Then
that
makes
was so
sense
funny now.
In the context of this episode, right? Like, the elements of that, the elements of The Walking Dead, the elements of I Am Legend, like, they're all in there. Especially what I was, the very first time I watched this episode, you know, we watch these episodes multiple times. The very first time, I was like, ain't no way, boy, because the way that they made the zombies here, how, at least forget the regular people, right? But when the Avenger zombies, they were essentially still sentient, and had all their powers and abilities. They were just had a thirst or taste for human flesh.
Brains.
And I was just, and again, that's also a departure from, at least, I mean, at this point, you've seen so many different variations of what a zombie can be, but it's also potentially a departure from what the traditional is, right? Like, they're kind of mindless. Yeah, they go because they have that hunger, but that's kind of it, right? You're not going to see them doing jujitsu or wushu or anything like that. They just kind of just walking towards you, just dead. This one, you got Cap running with his shield, really like about to do it. You have Iron Man literally using his pulsers, and you have Wong of all fucking people, like, in the mix, like they're alive, but they're not. And that's where I was like, yo, this is fucked up. Like, they still have their capabilities and their zombies. This is some shit, Ben.
I mean, don't act like Wong didn't put in work at the end of Endgame. Look, like I said, he dips at the right time, and then when it's time, my man puts in work.
I'm not saying he doesn't have work. He clearly has the skills. My point is, all the skills were still there, even under zombie rule.
I mean, like, if everybody else got him, he got him too.
We're used to not all times, but many times you're used to the zombies where they're essentially lifeless. They're just there to consume, but there's no grand other plan in their head. They're not sitting here drawing sorcerer circles and being a beast. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. No, even in Night of the Living Dead, they're hilarious, but they're still zombies.
They're still stupid, quote unquote, right? They're lemmings, quote unquote.
Well, no, them dudes in Night of the Living Dead were pretty smart. They were
Well,
hilarious.
that's what I'm saying. You have
that
some that are really
difference.
smart.
Yeah.
If you look at things like, and also we have, a lot of times zombies are portrayed as slow. And 28 days later, them niggas is fucking running
up and down the block.
Speed, like Jamaican track team going like on your ass. So it's just, it was just interesting how they created these versions of the zombies in this show.
Yeah. And this is
wild.
more akin to Marvel zombies where they had all their powers, etc. At one point,
too much.
Oh, it was way too much. At one point, Galactus, my boy Galactus, becomes a zombie. In fact, the new toy Galactus, the HasLab joint, has the skull face for him, so you can switch to the zombie-fied face.
I think you showed me, and
yeah.
No, I saw the picture, and I got confused because the only one shot have the zombie face, and I said, "Wait, what? What was that?"
Yeah, that's
too much.
It's way too much. They all become zombies and Marvel zombies at one point. Everybody gets zombified, and I thought I liked Marvel zombies. I didn't love it. Like, people love those comics. That's why people were anticipating this episode. So I wasn't really anticipating this episode, and then this episode has become one of my favorites. Like, I've watched it multiple times, not even for the show, just because I am crying through this whole episode. And I'm a dark humor type of person, dark humor, action films, with people snapping off lines after they murder someone, or some of my favorite humors. And this this episode had it all. Action
film and horror.
Yes, had all of those elements, It had my man Happy, shooting blam, 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 blam. And then when he's dying still, blam, blam. And then the last, blam.
It's like, this shouldn't happen like this. But it's exactly how it happened. And again, to the callbacks to the previous films, like, for example, I mentioned Captain America Civil War, when Ant-Man becomes essentially Giant Man. Mm-hmm. You see that happen, but this time with the Wasp.
Yep.
The way the Wasp like holds back the Quinjet when they're trying to escape, similar to when in Civil War, when or was that in that was Civil War. When Ant-Man grabbed War Machine and was trying to pull him back and stuff like that, stomping all over the little people, like Gulliver's Travel type shit. Like, all of that shit was in there.
Yeah, that's just all in there every time these people, show up. Because if you got a Giant Man, he gonna grab something and he gonna stomp on some other people. But it was really dope to see the Wasp do that, because even in the comics, it's very rare that the Wasp just to use the giant side of her powers.
And the Wasp was doing her thug thizzle in this episode. Like, they really was letting her, like, she's already pretty portrayed really well in the movies, in the films, but I would say they definitely did a great job, because like you said, you don't get to see that enough. But how dynamic she is, and to me, it followed the motif of the films, how dynamic she is in how she uses her powers, and how resourceful she is, how quick thinking she is. Her quickness and lightness is what saved her from getting the virus in the first place. Like, when her moms and pops comes out of the machine and immediately goes to attack her, she without thinking, like, she just becomes small and flies out the way, whereas Scott's still lumbering around, Like, you gotta be quicker than that.
Though, dog. Like,
you gotta be quicker than that, right?
That nigga was patient zero, boy.
He really was. Technically it was Hank, right? But like, outside of the quantum realm, it was Scott.
And then he was patient zero for the Vision too, boy.
Oof.
Well, let's talk about some of this humor in this episode, though, because fam, like,
it was so much, and that's why I could not get over. I was just like, yo, they're just pouring it on thick when it comes to the fucked up jokes and all the things going on. It was just nonstop.
What was your favorite? Or I had to say top three.
Top three, definitely the jokes from Scott. Bucky, the thing about Bucky is they always have him saying some wild shit. That's not new. They always have him saying some quippy one-liners, and it's like, shut the fuck up, Bucky. Like, that's just not cool. Like he's always saying stuff that's corny, but it's just like, all right, well, it's Bucky, so of course he had to say it. But infused with dark humor, it was mwah. I loved it. Bucky. Okoye. I fucked with Okoye this episode. She was saying some wild shit as well, but she always says quippy stuff.
But Okoye also came with the, I'm sorry we split up moment, where I was like, I didn't expect that from Okoye.
Why not?
I guess she could say I'm sorry, but
that was in her character.
I guess so. I just also was like,
because it resulted in Happy dying, so she's like, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, true. I mean, Happy was going to go at some point, dog.
Facts.
He's running around with a repulsor on his head.
Going blam, like, grow up. Grow up, sir.
Like, fam, you was not making it through the end of the episode.
No, you're not.
At one point, I was like, there ain't no way they going to murder Peter in this episode either. Because I know that
Oh, no, they can't.
Peter is actually the true hope and heart of the episode.
He is the heart of this episode. They cannot.
Yeah. But I love Bucky. I love Bucky from his intro with the hair and the shower.
Yes.
And the naked and the paws.
Yes.
But Bucky cutting Cap in half and saying, I guess this is the end of the line after he falls off a train.
He falls off the train. That's what I'm saying. Bucky, and if you look at the other episodes where Bucky appears, and even in Falcon and Winter Soldier, I just didn't realize how many one-liners Bucky says, but this is his theme. Like, yes. I did not realize it until I just kept watching, like, yo, does he do this all the time? And he does.
But he's never had one like that.
Not like that.
That was action movie perfect. That's 80s action movie. You cut somebody off, they fall off the train, and then to make it even better, the fact that, the end of the line, I'm with you to the end of the line, and then my man said, I guess this is the end of the line, and then top it off with that was your friend from Okoye, and damn. I should be sad, but I'm not.
I was on the motherfucking floor on that shit. I also really liked Peter's How to Stay Alive video. That video was really hilarious.
With all the pauses and
yes, and the edits, it was really cool.
Yeah, it had sleeping for Bucky. Bucky's one of his habits was sleeping.
Yeah, sleeping, and then like Sharon and hers was like, it was like super spy espionage, some shit. Like it was just like really cute Peter Parker-esque stuff. And I think in his movie he had a video like that, right? Like a home video.
Yeah, but it's mistaken. He definitely had the home video like that.
When he was doing videos of the Avengers, like when he was joining the team, and he was like, "Yo, this is my boy Thor, and this is
yes.
And it reminds you he's a kid.
Yes,
that's
very much so. And that's what they really portrayed. The Peter Parker was portrayed amazingly in this episode. I just loved it that they went so dark with it, and then managed to maintain that level of humor throughout it, because it was it was little things like me, look, they had Captain America eating Sharon Carter.
I mean, when I did pause it a few times, it was like, where's his head right now?
Look, I see, I didn't even pause it, and I was like, her upper body's over here, and they got his head down there. The illusion was pretty obvious.
That is another thing he does not have in common with Batman.
No. Look. Sweet as apple pie, American, baby,
I'm crying. Let's continue on the dark humor, all the dark humor that was in this episode, Ben. As you mentioned, all Hope Van Dyne's fault. I don't know how it ended up being really her fault at the end of the day, but I guess it's her fault. She took that.
Yeah, she took it, but I don't put it on her. You know.
Just like a dark humor, and also in a tragedy kind of way, just like Infinity War, they still end up bringing the Mind Stone, or in the movie's case, Vision, to Wakanda, and essentially right into Thanos' hands.
Yep.
And we see at the end of the episode, we end up with a zombie Thanos that obtains all the stones. I don't know.
Maybe not.
No, it looked like all the stones were in his hand when
he had them all except for the one that except for the Soul Stone.
He didn't have that.
No.
In the middle.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
He had right in the film, he almost had all of them. Right.
Yeah, and that's what they're bringing.
Right. So, and then also in this, the difference here is in this film, in this show, Vision was able to remove the stone himself, and he basically committed suicide. Whereas in Infinity War, Thanos rips it from his head and dies just about the same way.
Yeah, turns gray. Both times, Wanda's mad hurt. Yeah.
Wanda's mad hurt. Zombie Wanda. Speaking of, everybody is a zombie. Captain America, Hawkeye, Black Widow, who we don't see, but we assume. Iron Man, Happy ends up going. Sharon ends up taking the bad one. Janet Van Dyne. Why they let her continue? I mean, I guess there was no time, but for her to let her go down as giant zombie and not like press the button to make her go small again, because now you have a giant zombie Janet. I'm like, there's no stopping that. But
she
whatever.
could still grow again. Remember, they all had full control of the house.
I forgot. They're still sentient. Whatever.
Yeah.
And Zombie Falcon,
who got split in half.
And let's talk about the deaths, Ben. I mean, because we want to say dark humor. The way people, and you notice how most of them got split in half. Cap got split in half, length, horizontally. Okoye took out Falcon, I think the long way. I think Sharon went out the long way. Like everybody.
No, Sharon went out explosively.
Oh, you're right. My fault.
Yeah.
Went out explosively. There were so many gruesome deaths of all.
Yes.
And that's the thing, to not just change these beloved characters into zombies, but then all of them really quick. It's like they became zombies and 30 seconds later they're dead. Like, and then like, oh, because she exploded. She exploded like how fucking Hulk exploded in the other episode. Bam!
I love how
in the case of Happy.
I love how Bucky backhands Sharon when she gets up
backhand
in the middle of fighting, because he's in the middle of fighting Cap, and he's like, I'm just on that top for this.
That was a beautiful pimp slap backhand, if I ever seen it.
And also, like I've talked about before, that is the thing about What If, and also about Marvel Zombies, is it allows writers to kill these characters in creative ways. Characters they can never murder. You can never have Captain America not catch a shield and get cut in half. But people always wonder, what if he misses up? And in this episode, you see what happens. Whack! You know, this is the end of the line.
And just even just the way they got turned, like the way that they took that L so fast. It was like, what's his face was smart. Like I said, they saw their powers. Hank was tiny Hank and fucking did his mosquito shit right on to Cap America. And that was it. That's it. It was just like, once you get scratched, cut up, as we know in The Walking Dead, once you get any type of damage, that's it. It's over for you. It's quiet for you. So for that to happen like that, and Cap was like, ow, and then it just pure utter catastrophe from that point onward. No turning back. It was brilliant and how dark it was.
Yeah.
But it was funny, and that's what tricks the mind, right? It's like, yo, should I really be laughing at this? Like, this is so funny. Again, like Zombieland, it's like, damn, this is funny, but this is fucked up.
Dog, I was rolling. I mean, I was just rolling from beginning to end, and I didn't expect that, because like I said, I've been waiting for this episode, and I did not expect it to be this ridiculously funny. And just from beginning to end, I am crying at this episode. Like, I can watch it over and over again, because all these little jokes, the Harry Potter joint he threw in, what is it? Wingardium Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa, yeah.
Yeah,
to make himself fly. When the cape saves Scott's head.
Yeah.
And also, there are elements of Futurama there.
Yeah, with
Futurama
the head. Yeah.
has it where in the future, like the only that can be saved are people's heads or whatever. Yep. So people or reanimated. Mm-hmm. So you just have head jars all over of random like people and luminaries.
And that's also straight up from every comic ever. There's always the head jar. There was recently in X-Men, No Girl, who is a brain in a jar.
Are you serious right
yes.
now? Okay.
Dead ass serious. Grant Morrison once again.
Even Black Panther and again, rest in power to Chadwick Boseman, who does reprise the voice of Black Panther, T'Challa in this. He's saved by Vision in San Fran, only to be used as food for Wanda. Like you see, he got one of his legs cut off. Like Vision was slowly chopping off each of his bits. And even T'Challa got in on and called himself. He said, "Oh, you just needed me for takeout." And I was like, "Yo, like they are not stopping on the writing."
He said, "I thought I was being saved."
I thought I was being saved, but I was only here for takeout. Yo.
And shout out, rest in peace, Chadwick, dog. Like, I love that he had the good humor and good awareness to do all these episodes that he's done and blessed us with this, because we got that beautiful tribute episode in the Star-Lord episode. Yes. And then you get, like the takedown episode where it takes down every character and he's right there with the rest of them. And it made me miss him even more because, in the quiet moments in the Quinjet, he's killing it. But like you said, the fact that he can do this voice and this energy of Black Panther and then still say, I thought I'm here for takeout,
still say the funniest shit ever.
But do
everything
it in
was
the
funny
cadence
this episode,
and the rhythms of T'Challa was like, man, he had that character,
Another portion of dark humor that I noticed, which is actually representative of like classic monster movies and those types of stories, is when they found out that Vision was actually luring humans to Camp Lehigh in New Jersey in order to keep Wanda fed, since he couldn't bring himself to kill her. Remember, Okoye questioned him like, "Bro, why don't you just offer? Like, why are you doing this?" I couldn't do it. It just reminded me of that motif of a creator that has this creation and they can't bring themselves to destroy it, even though they know that creation is just on some fuck shit or has caused harm. Like a lot of times it could be like their son or daughter or, you know, some child that they brought back to life. And again, they become a zombie or some wild shit happens. And in wanting to save that creation, they themselves become a monster in how they continue to keep this creation alive.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this before the show, trying to find the right reference, and just now it popped into my head. One of the classic ones is from The Walking Dead, the governor and his daughter. The governor is one of the first major villains in The Walking Dead, and he keeps his daughter chained up because his daughter has been bitten and then turned into a zombie, and she's a little girl, so he brings her people to feed, and he thinks that one day she'll turn back into a regular person or something.
Wow. So again, Walking Dead reference right over there. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that. Wow.
That shit just popped into my head while you were talking about it. So there it is.
Yeah. So sad, but so funny.
Yeah. I mean, that was sad. This was hilarious. Like, cause you know, they made a joke of it because T'Challa and Takeout. And I mean, come on.
The comedy of everything and the idea of keep smiling in the face of doom. That kept repeating itself throughout this episode, particularly with the heart of the episode, which was Peter, and even his conversation with Hope, where you know, like they talked, and you know, he talked about it was so sad, just how he's lost everybody, and even when he started talking about the conversation about Aunt May, and he has to change it from is to was, or you know, he had to change it to past tense. It's just like, damn, Peter really did lost everybody, and in this episode, just lost one by one, just right after the other members of the Avengers and shit like that. And then you have this really heartfelt but cute moment with Bruce, where Bruce is like, yo, I just got to go out there and help y'all. And he's like, yo, I lost too much. And he says, then just avenge us.
Mm-hmm. And also shout to Peter when he says that line that Aunt May said that she would want us to keep smiling because if not, we're just like the people who have passed away. And that, I mean, you know, people talk about that line from Vision, you know, what is grief but love. And I like that line. It's a great line.
That line is still a hot bar.
It's a hot bar. Don't get me wrong. I think it got a little over much, so I wasn't as hot on it. But like, yeah, but that bar right there,
that's bars.
That was a bar, dog, right there. And you know, shout out to the actor, who is that, Hudson Thames, who was playing Peter Parker, because he delivered that. And also, this is a monumental moment right here. This is the first real mention of Uncle Ben's rice up in the MCU.
Is it really?
It really is.
Oh, you know why? Because
folks.
I keep thinking of all of the other Spider-Men.
Oh, yes, because he has been shot multiple times in multiple media, you know, but no, this is the first blam again. Yeah. Blam, blam, blam. Now you want to make me edit all those together with him saying blam over there.
For each person dying,
yeah.
blam. Slice in half, blam, explosion.
This is off track, but there's a great edit on YouTube of all the times Bruce Wayne's parents have been murdered.
Oh, Lord.
And every time it cuts to the Joker when he puts that paper down on Bruce Wayne's desk where it says, you let your parents die. So it's that. It's like,
you let your parents die in this timeline and that timeline?
And they got it from all the cartoons, from all the TV shows. From all the movies.
Them niggas be dying for 50 fucking years, bro. Like,
what?
okay.
No, 80, 90. What do you mean? Batman's going on like 80, 90 now.
100 years. Bruce Wayne's parents been dying.
Failing. So, yes, but this is the first time that Uncle Ben has been mentioned by name in the MCU proper in relation to Tom Holland's character. Because in a few months, we're not even going to be able to say that because all these niggas don't be in the MCU. So, right now, in relation to Tom Holland's character, this is the first time that Uncle Ben has been called by name.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, because he was all, you know, it's always been like alluded to. He talked about there was a loss, and he talked about in the first time he's introduced, he says, if you don't do things that I can do and then bad things happen, then, you know, it's your fault for them happening. So that was like the first allusion to it. But he's never been said by name. They had his initials on the luggage in Spider-Man. What's that? What's the second one? Far From Home.
Far From Home. Okay.
Yeah, in Far From Home, Ben Franklin Parker, BFP, is on the luggage of Peter that he takes with him.
And there's one more just that conversation when it comes to about Smiley and keeping hope and faith and all that within T'Challa himself. And again, this could potentially have been finalized and edited before Chadwick passed. But the way he was like, well, in my culture, essentially he said, in my culture, no one ever really dies, right? He says, you know, your spirit lives on, all that other stuff. And the camera was very dominant on centering T'Challa. Yeah. And I could just think about Chadwick. Like, this is just another shout out and message of love to him. Like, you personally may have passed, but your spirit still lives on.
Yeah. And that's something, because that Black Panther line has helped me with my grief from the Black Panther film, when they talk about in my culture, death is just a crossing over point. You know, you pass into this great green land and Bast opens his arms to you. That shit has like, it's saved me at times, because of like, that's, you know, I can be like, okay, you know, the people who I've lost in my life are there, you know, that's where they are.
You can still speak with them. Like, my grandfather passed last year, and I still like feel his energy and his spirit. Like, I still feel like that he is with me. And that's what they were trying to convey with all of this. Like, these people are still with you. Their energy, their spirit, their love is still with you. And you know, as long as you, and really the line went, as long as you remember them, they will still live.
And that's another thing that I've kept with me, because like my mother passed, and we were just talking about this on our main For All Nerds show, and her birthday's coming up. And that's something I keep with me, is that as long as I keep her memory and her energy alive, that was even something that I said, you know, at her funeral, at her service, when I was like, if we, you know, we talk about science, we talk about faith, and we talk about energy, and we talk about belief, and we talk about, we believe that people live forever. You know, that's what that's what all religions teach you. But the science teaches you that as long, you know, energy never goes anywhere. It just turns into a different form. And so I just combine those two things, and I believe that, like what they said in this episode, as long as we keep people's faith, as long as we keep their memory, as long as we keep their energy with us, you know, nothing ever dies. Oh, got a little
NERD.
Got a little sad for our tragic humor episode.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, also wanted to point out that this episode, yet again, is the rare tragedy that we see in stories, because as we keep talking about, most stories are comedic arcs where characters go through a bunch of things, and at the end they overcome, and boom, we all cheer for them. And in the few rare stories of tragedies where characters go through a bunch of things, it looks like they're getting better, it looks like things are getting better, and then whomp, it's all bad. And once again, this seems to be that episode. Oh, they all, you know, with Avengers, you know, we got our 3 Avengers, we're going to Wakanda, it'll be good there. Wrong. Wakanda's already been taken over by Thanos.
Like Charlie Murphy. Wrong.
Habitual line sever. Wrong. And so, yeah, because I mean, in this one, I don't really see a good ending, you know, because it is all bad. Like, if they've already captured Wakanda, they've got all those Wakandan zombies.
And that's what I was trying to figure out. Was that Thanos outside of the dome or already inside of the dome?
Yeah,
because I thought it was him outside of the dome banging, and it was showing just like with Infinity War, it was just showing him coming up to come and take it.
That's what I thought.
Take the Mind Stone like he did in the movie.
But when they cut to him inside, he was inside. It looked
the city was behind him. So.
Yeah. So either way,
the last human sanctuary on Earth is what Okoye called it.
Yeah, so if they've still got Wakanda, maybe they got a fighting chance against Thanos and his 5 stones. Doubtful.
And not just Thanos, zombie Thanos. And all the zombies that are now in there with him. Plus
all the Avengers zombies who are on their way. And, you know, like, well, most of them got taken out, right? A lot of them.
And that's another thing. Like, so what happens when, so if you're a zombie, you're just on the side of zombies, right? Like, forget everything else. Like, or is the Avengers zombies going to see a zombie Thanos and be like, oh, we need to fight? Like, that's what I'm saying.
I think there's all
the once you're a zombie, you're just part of the zombie collective.
Yeah, zombie tribe, you know.
Zombie horde.
Zombie for life, you know. Wait, what is it?
Zombie 4L.
Yeah, for afterlife. No, what are they? Undead? Yeah, it's not unlife. Yeah, for afterlife. Zombie for afterlife?
Oh my God. Then I mean, this is horrible. Let's talk about the characters, sir.
Oh God, please.
Let's talk about the characters. Reprising his non-helpful role as the Watcher, we have Jeffrey Wright, talking about oof and hate to be you, son. Like, I just every time he just shows up, especially when he shows up in the distance, like how they do that. You notice they've been doing these wide shots where it shows the entire landscape and his eyes just looking across. And he looked very particularly black this episode. Like there was one scene where they kind of like zoomed in on the structures of his face, and his phenotype was like he was black. Like it was much more apparent that he was black, and that's why I said there was a slight difference with the way these characters was drawn in their facial structure.
I think you're also projecting Jeffrey Wright in his.
No, I wasn't. I
The scorn.
No, not his scorn. Why would I equate scorn with him looking more black? Ben, that's not what happened.
When it's looking at white people, that's what I usually.
No, that's not what happened, sir. No, it was just the angle at which he was drawn. It was just a little.
No, I agree. They've definitely browned him up, and it makes me sad because they recently released a Watcher Build-A-Figure from Hasbro, and he's still an old school Watcher, and I would like a slightly more brown Watcher now. You know, I might have to get that one.
But the facial structure is the same.
Yeah, I might have to get that one and customize that joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hook him
or
up.
does it look like our views from the 616 logo?
No.
Who is black, by the way? Just if you were wondering, he is
the Blatcher.
Black,
himself.
but I don't know if they even ascribed themselves to, ethnicity at that point. So
no, but
being
being
an 11D creature and all.
Blatu. he needs a better name, but right now he's Blatu.
Blue Atu.
Yeah, Blue Atu.
Black Atu.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The
Blatcher.
The next character, of course, Bruce Banner. Mark Ruffalo reprises his voice for the Bruce Banner. He does. Well, I'm about to say he doesn't die this episode, but yes, he does. It's assumed he does. You don't actually.
Yeah, it's
that's
assumed.
the thing. You don't actually see him go, but it's assumed he just gets overwhelmed by zombies when he goes out to fight. And then also when Janet, was it Janet? No, when it's Scarlet Witch, when she ends up tossing Bucky to basically she yeeted him all the way to the next fucking county. You don't know that he died, but he's potentially died.
Oh, he did. Oh, he quite did.
Okay.
I mean, well, he does have the super soldier serum, so it's possible.
Like maybe he hung on to something. I don't know.
No, and I'm just talking about surviving the landing because he didn't hang on to anything.
Yeah.
No.
Like if something slowed down his fall.
I mean, look, this is physics. Slowing down your fall still means you hit something. Like that's still like.
He survived
what'd
worse.
You slow down his fall? Pillow?
But that's what I'm saying.
No.
It's like they pick and choose in the MCU when a fall is lethal, right?
He
like,
got yeeted.
He did.
That wasn't a
and
fall.
by Wanda, not just by anybody,
Yeah.
by fucking Wanda full speed.
I was mad she just didn't explode him, but I really did like seeing Bruce Banner rush out there and turn into the Hulk and have the gray temples, the Reed Richards temples on his hair.
He had the gray hair. Yeah.
I love seeing that, and just the fight between him and Wanda was just so dope. And Bruce Banner, man, I gotta say, that took a lot of balls for him to pull that off.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
Okay. 45, 43. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So Bucky Barnes, voiced by Sebastian Stan. And yes, Ben, I have a crush. I've had a crush on Bucky. But they really did draw him very, very pretty. He looked
they did.
But they also made him look like hot Jesus. It was weird.
It was great.
But it was great. And his hair was flowing. It was so, and then, why you had to introduce him naked though? Like, okay. That's my answer.
Look, I know a lot of people were really excited when he said, all I have to do is squeeze with that arm.
Ooh!
Look, I'm just saying.
Thinking that way, you nasty.
I've been wanting to turn it down.
Hey, man. I'm leaving that one alone. Okoye, voiced by Denai Gurira. She came back. Hope Van Dyne, voiced by Evangeline Lilly. Paul Bettany came back to do the Vision. Paul Rudd. I just realized they were both named Paul. But Paul Rudd came back as his Scott Lang with his dad jokes, his unbelievable and nonstop dad jokes.
Nigga said I wouldn't feel left out.
Complete and utter annihilation. He's still doing dad jokes.
He said I wouldn't feel left out.
Jon Favreau reprises his voice for Happy Hogan. You mentioned it earlier, Ben, but Tom Holland is not voicing Peter Parker, but in his best Tom Holland impression, Hudson Thames is actually voicing Peter in this episode. And
did a great job.
Did an amazing job because there was usually I can tell within the first few words whether or not it was that person, but I really couldn't tell for a while. But great job. And David Dasmalkian returns as Kurt. Kurt in the film, he was part of the ex-con security consultants. You even see he's wearing that ex-con badge on his shirt in this episode. He was introduced in the Ant-Man movie. He was a former Folsom prison inmate, introduced to Scott by Luis, who is played by Michael Pena. And I also just wanted to do this real quick, fun quip that Kurt, or the actor that plays Kurt, David Dasmalkian, he also plays Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad 2.
Fam, I had no clue, and I've seen
no clue.
I've seen Suicide Squad too, and now that you say it, it's obvious.
It's like, oh, that's him.
Yeah, but it was like all them warts on his face. You know, I was distracted.
Yeah. And of course, remember, this is just a voice. And also, even though he's also in the film, he's doing that Slavic voice, and he's doing like this really deep situation.
Yeah.
So I understand, like, not even realizing it. But yeah, until I looked him up, I was like, oh shit, that's the same guy. Yeah,
but now as soon as you say it, it's like obvious, like that's his face. But also, someone was missing. You know, Mr. T.I. was missing, and I feel like we're gonna see more of Kurt and less of T.I.'s
I feel like
character.
You're not gonna see T.I. no more.
Yeah, and there ain't even gonna be a mention why.
They already 1.0'd him.
Yeah.
And not even because he's not getting replaced. He's just gone.
Yeah, and they're not even gonna, like, Rhodey at least got a little quip about, I'm here now, let's deal with it, whatever, move on. It ain't even gonna be that. I
don't know. They're not gonna mention him.
He died in the zombies, and that's just him.
I mean, was his character really even that noticeable or memorable to even care whether he comes back?
Not especially, no. I like Kurt and I love Luis, but yeah.
Like, he's not Michael Pena, so.
No, and he ain't Kurt, as this episode proves. Baba Yaga.
The Baba Yaga. And of course, I was dying laughing again because, especially with seeing, all the Matrix news coming out and thinking about Keanu and how he still looks like his same character in John Wick. And he himself is called the Baba Yaga. So yeah,
which was like, I read a whole article about how that was like so wrong.
From a cultural perspective?
From a cultural perspective, and because it's like he's not the Baba Yaga. Like the actual meaning of Baba Yaga is not what they say it is in John Wick. It's completely wrong. Basically.
And is it also wrong in this MCU version? Because in this, Kurt says that in his culture, the Baba Yaga is this witch, and he was referring to Scarlet Witch in this point.
Yeah, I think they're more right, but I can't remember why it's wrong in John Wick. I just know that they got it wrong. I think what they were trying to say is another word that sounds like that or something.
They said Baba Yaga like the boogeyman, and that's John.
Yeah.
So they just basically equated two concepts, but like you said, maybe culturally it's actually something totally different.
There it is. I think that's what it is. So yeah.
Right.
But still hilarious. Baba Yaga coming up, and Scarlet Witch, they didn't bring back Miss Olsen for this because she had no lines, but I did love how she was portrayed. Like I said, that whole fight was dope. Her yeeting your man's off.
The fact that even in zombie mode, she still felt for Vision.
Yes.
And that still affected her.
Yeah, that was great. Great little moment right there. And shout out to Toby Wan, because I think he thought that I was going to go off. Like, I don't know. Like I say, to me, the Avengers aren't really the heroes aren't monsters in this episode. It's just a bad one. This ain't like, you could potentially blame Hope. And I think he was more talking about how Scarlet Witch was a menace.
Yeah.
And
I didn't, but I heard what she said. Hope says I should have considered what I could bring back with her, but I'm like, would that really enter your... I guess as a scientist you should, but...
You should, yeah.
I also felt like it was acceptably negligible, if that makes sense.
The whole world dies because of it.
How could you fucking know? First of all, you didn't even know if this would work to even make it to the quantum realm, and it's been 30 years. So what would also make you think, I gotta be careful, I might bring back a tardigrade at full side or some shit like that. I don't think that would have entered your mind, especially if you've done so many other precautions. I don't know if that is a reasonable thing to think of, but she even said she felt she should have thought of it. But that's water under the bridge.
Basically. And the universe is done. Oof, that happened. But I didn't even think Scarlet Witch was a menace in this episode. Scarlet Witch was just being Scarlet Witch.
She was a zombie. She was
Vision was more the menace, if you want to call it.
Vision was the villain.
Yeah, if you want to call anyone a villain in this episode, it was Vision. Vision. And then he even realized, this is effed up what I've been doing. But yeah, he killed a lot of people.
Did he realize, or it wasn't until they scolded him and he was like, y'all right, fam?
I mean, he said
Like,
it when
until
they got
your
there.
friends show up and be like, you dead ass wrong. Then it's like, fam, you right.
I mean, you
Like,
know,
what?
T'Challa had been talking to him the whole time, so he didn't, that's his boy, and he didn't realize
still cut off
then either.
T'Challa's leg. He still cut off T'Challa's leg
Straight up.
below the knee.
Yep. I mean, he let him get the knee. You can keep the knee.
Sir.
Look, small victories, folks.
Yes. These characters are just phenomenally done in this episode. Really appreciated that. And let's just finish off with any remaining Easter eggs, inspiration, or music. We mentioned all the different zombie films, zombie tropes that were used in this, especially like as Peter said it a couple times about jump scares. That was there. The characters experienced jump scares within themselves. People like you knew was gonna die. This whole people getting dragged into the darkness with nothing, with nowhere, never to be seen again type of shit. We also
Blam.
and it was so fun, right? That last extra blam for no reason.
Yes. and then for her to get a blam back on Hawkeye, that was great.
Yeah.
For Sharon.
I think this was potentially done in Aliens. I could be wrong, but
yes.
When Scott catches the bad one right away, ends up being patient zero after he gets bit by Hank and them. Like, his handprint, like his hand goes on the glass and it slides down like a glass that looks like it's fogged up. I said, I think that might have been repeated or shown in Aliens before. It's actually potentially a throwback to Titanic, because when that lovemaking scene, Rose does the same thing. She puts her hand up and it
Not
slides
in death,
down,
though.
and you hear the moaning sounds. And I mean, what they say about making love, that's close to death too. So
true indeed.
Wow.
I've been there.
You're giving these people way too much information. Way too much information.
I mean, they say the orgasm is the little death. If you ain't been there, then I feel for you, fam.
Facts.
Like, come on now.
We talked about the Harry Potter references. So there's a point where Okoye is talking to Scott's head, and she's trying to console him. And what does she say? And what does that mean, Ben?
Oh, she says Tula Tula, which means chill in Swahili, in Kiswahili to be exact.
Okay.
And to be tranquil.
It's also the same in a few other languages. Is that true?
And Choctaw, which is Native American, Indigenous, and Hindi.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep. So Tula Tula.
And
she also throws in something else.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it is, but as usual, they sprinkle in a little different languages for Okoye.
Yeah. I'm mad she had to go out, but she went out like a G with her Wakanda Forever. She got hemmed up by Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, and then
they had to say their goodbyes between her and T'Challa real quick.
Oh, that's what it is. When she first sees him, she calls him the same word. My king. My king, the same word she yelled out when he dusted in Infinity War. Yeah. Still hates to this day.
So I'm just like...
this is no place to die.
So once again, Ben, are these again? I really refuse to believe that this is the only story they're going to tell about the zombies and then move on. I mean, they could. There's unlimited ideas, but you don't think they're going to continue this?
I mean, because Marvel Zombies is so popular, I could see them continuing this in season 2, especially if by that time maybe such concepts like Celestials or Galactus are more mainstream for the MCU, because the Marvel Zombies definitely get into that eating up everything and they go cosmic with it. So
damn.
I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy weren't in this episode, so they could get 8, like they could do a lot with it.
They could get 8.
I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to, is everybody getting 8. So that's really it depends on how much people want to see more of this. And I know people are fiending for this because they release toys for Hasbro has now released their Marvel Legends for the first season of What If. And there's a Spidey, there's a Peter Parker with the cloak on, but there's also a zombie Captain America. And that joint, I think, is the hot ticket. People love Marvel Zombies. Like when it came out, it was one of them series that if you had the first print, you was making some money.
That's wild. I mean, maybe because I'm just not hugely into zombies.
Yeah, I'm
not.
love
So for people like
Walking
freaking
Dead.
out, I'm like, okay.
No, I love all great zombie stuff. It was just good, and it was like kind of silly, so I just didn't care, But like, I had all the Walking Dead comics, like everything. But this was just, it was like whatever. But this, I could watch another episode of this easily.
Yeah. Oh, there were also elements of Shaun of the Dead in here too.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, Shaun of the Dead is the one that pretty much is like shouting out all the things that came before it. So any element of that is an element that is taken
everything
from something else. Yeah. Because Shaun of the Dead is just referencing every zombie movie that came before it.
Yeah.
There's a One of the Dead that I've only seen the end of, but people say it's really good.
What's it called?
One of the Dead.
One?
Yes, like One. I think it takes place in Mexico or something. And it is, people say it's great. I've only seen the very end of it. But yeah, One of the Dead is another one.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was made after Shaun of the Dead, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Easter eggs, inspiration, music, or references?
No. Was there any music in this episode?
I mean, besides just general, like, orchestral stuff, like, I don't think there was any. I'm sure, like, we've seen in previous episodes that there are, like, you can see hints of, like, the themes going. Like,
definitely.
Themes, shit like that.
Yeah.
I just cannot believe Juan caught the bad one. Like, he is usually making it out, and he did not.
I mean, like, tpublic.com/store/forallnerds. Wong was right. Get the design right now, because every time Wong dips, things go right. Wong doesn't dip,
things go left. And like I said, just the combination of so many different scenes from previous Marvel films, like even that scene with the fight between Tony, Strange, and Wong, between them and Ebony Maw and Chloe Obsidian, that was ripped directly from the film.
Also, the fight between Bucky and Steve is like, rehashes of all their old fights, except it never ended in Steve getting chopped in half.
Yikes. All right.
This is the end of the line, though. You do not understand how hard I laughed. Because I'm like, they went through the trouble of getting them on a train and then having Steve show up.
And we know that shit happened in Captain America, that train scene. It happened in the other episode, What If?
And then they do the trouble of getting him on the train, and then they have him cut him in half and fall off the train just so they can have him say, I guess, for this. I guess, dude. Like,
well, I guess this is the end of the line for this episode of Views from the 616, because we are done reviewing episode 5 of What If Zombies. If you enjoyed it, I know you did. You're still here. You listen to me. Thank you very much for listening. And do me a few favors, please. Please make sure you are following us. Follow For All Nerds on social media. Also follow Views from 616. That way you can interact directly with us and see all the news and quips and jokes and memes and all sorts of foolishness that we're doing on a daily basis. Shout out to Chica. We love you, our social media manager. Also, shout out to Luna, our incredible sound engineer and designer and everything in between. All of the cool sound effects and little insertions you hear, that's all from his great, brilliant mind. Thank you so much. As I mentioned, I need you all to do a few things. Besides following us, make sure you are following or subscribe, depending on what the button says, on your favorite podcast platform. You need to follow For All Nerds in order to listen to Views from the 616 and listen to our brilliant takes and also somewhat off-base takes on everything happening in the MCU. Make sure you're following us individually on social media. I'm at Tatiana King. He's at DJ Benhameen. And what you can do to support an independent, Black-owned brand that covers geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color, you can support us by visiting our TeePublic page, tpublic.com/stores with an S/forallnerds. We showed you our lovely shirts here. We are both wearing the Miss Minutes F Around and Find Out shirt. We also have that brand new Wong Was Right shirt that is in the pipeline now, along with all the other brilliant designs that we have, like Inclusion is Revolution by Chrissy Chung. We have our Sketch Sawyer Mohawk on a motorbike. We have it all, especially even you got to rep the For All Nerds logo. So hit that up. Get it on everything you like. You get it on shirts, phone cases, totes, pillows, whatever you need. Masks, we got them. Hit that up. Also, hit up our I already said TeePublic, so our Patreon page. That's another way to support us financially. Patreon.com/forallnerds, where you can become a patron and support monthly. You can be on any tier. That will give you benefits. Every tier is important, so we appreciate you. Everyone has some form of special stuff and goods that come to you, special privileges. There's 100 odd people or so that have already been getting their stuff sent to them. You have like t-shirts and stickers and all sorts of stuff coming in the mail. So again, the last few months, be sure that you have been checking your mailbox. Continue to check your mailbox because your stuff has already been sent out. We appreciate you, salute you. Please make sure you are talking to us on the Patreon. And also, if you just is your first time listening, you're probably missing your rewards or something. Make sure you are checking the messages we're sending on there. We're sending messages on there all the time, as well as new posts. And thank you to everyone who is on the Twitch right now. Twitch.tv/forallnerds. We appreciate and love you. You make it so much fun for us every week, Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Y'all are always in the chat, thoroughly enjoying it and consuming and also giving. You're also giving in terms of your comments and a few of y'all are just absolutely hilarious. I really enjoy when you're in the chat. So make sure you're joining me and Benhameen there. If you have Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch subscription of your choice. Please let that be For All Nerds. Right about now, right around now, we're going to be dropping a link to show you how you can link your Amazon Prime account along with Twitch in order to make that happen for you. Twitch.tv/forallnerds. Like I said, make sure you subscribe if you can, if you have the means. Otherwise, just make sure you're following us. In fact, I think you have to follow us in order to even chat in the chat room with us. Did I miss anything, Benhameen?
Our new thing, TikTok, because we are on that TikTok. Go to TikTok. Make sure you follow us, TikTok.com or TikTok on the app, whatever you're using. Follow us, For All Nerds, for all of that content that we're dropping over there. Hopefully by the time you see this episode or hear this episode, however you're listening or watching us, I will have dropped my new TikTok where I'm attempting to explain the MCU timeline. So that's a particular interest to you views from the 616 listeners out there.
This is relevant to my interest.
I understood that reference.